Pittsburgh Steelers fans, what is going on? Welcome back to Blicksburg Squad. I'm Wesley Seeley, joined with Shane Smith. Shane, it's week 3. We got Thursday night football. We're heading to Cleveland to face the Brownies. We're coming off a pretty disappointing loss against the Patriots. Our offense looks like crap, and it's a night game which we don't really prefer. So, tell me some good news.
Well, I was going to say, what's the negatives? I'm still waiting. I'm just used to this all by now.
Yeah, did you like that laundry list I just threw out there?
Yeah, it is week 3. I'm glad that we have primetime games, but man, my body just can't take these primetime games anymore.
Why not?
It's basically like, hey, I get to stay up and, record afterwards. It's great. It's great. No, I'm not positive. It's football. We enjoy watching football.
It's primetime. I will say, though, however, out of all the primetime games, I think, Thursday night because it's going into Friday and it's just like closer to the weekend. Sunday night's rough because then you're going into Monday morning, and Monday night games because you're going into Tuesday. I don't know. Thursday night's just like, you're at least going into Friday. It's a little one day closer to the weekend. Maybe it's a little bit better on that front.
Just call off the next day. Have a nice extended
there you go.
weekend.
Just take an extra long weekend. I guess depending on the outcome of the game will determine if we call off.
Yeah, I'll call off if we win. I'll call off if we lose.
Oh, okay. There you go. So maybe it won't determine it. So we've got a short week here. It's always tough when you got a short week and you're heading to a division opponent too. They're coming off a pretty ugly loss as well. They really dropped the ball, no pun intended.
They lost that game, in a horrible fashion that they should have never let happen.
No.
So, but misery loves company. AFC North went 0-4 on Sunday.
That's right.
So it made me feel a little bit better, left us up atop the leaderboards, which is, a small win, but a win nonetheless. Short week. We've already had one divisional game, week 1. So, it makes me a little nervous because our defense has played so many snaps, and now we're against another divisional team that runs the ball, keeps time of possession, kills the clock, and it's like, oh boy. I feel bad for our defense. But maybe our offense will turn it around and do what we expect them to do.
Yeah, the extra snaps on the defense obviously cannot help, especially with a team that is going to just run it right at you with Chubb and Hunt. That's going to definitely make it tougher. And my concern, obviously, is, and I'm sure we can get into this here, is the offense. And I know, man, it just seems like this is all we flip and talk about with the Steelers. It's either offensive line, it's either the play calling, it's something. This year, it's quarterback play and play calling, I would say.
A good combo of it. It seems, especially this week, that a lot of fingers are being pointed at Canada, and a lot of fingers are being pointed at his play calling. I know Trubisky's kind of already called him out because Trubisky likes things down the middle of the field, and that's not happening. Tomlin, without being critical because he never is, basically said that, he's just trying to be patient, which is his way of saying that he's frustrated and not happy with the results. It's come out that Trubisky, even though he's a 6-year vet, is not even able to call audibles, and it's basically like whatever the play call is. And so it's like, man, it's just, I don't know, a lot of small things that you don't think matter that all of a sudden it's like, well, now all of a sudden it seems to matter because our offense just cannot fire up and do anything.
Yeah, the offense is just sputtering. The offense just cannot get any consistency. And I feel sort of the same way with Mitch. I think the same can be said about him. You look at him and his play style, the first 2 games has been inconsistent, and he's had those throws where you're like, okay, Mitch, you're the guy. You're the starting guy here. You're making a throw. That's a great throw right there. And you take a look at the next play. Well, you're kind of scratching your head thinking, did I just watch two different guys throw the football? Because that was a poor decision or a poor throw. It's just you're going to see that inconsistency from him, which is a little bit disappointing. I mean, he's had the experience. He's got it behind two different teams now. Mm-hmm. You would think that something would click now. That I don't know. Maybe this is all you're going to see from Mitch. I don't know. Maybe this is the Mitch that you're always going to get. There's no improved version. It is what it is. I just don't know yet. Obviously, it's been a small sample size so far, but still, from what we've seen so far, that seems to be the case from in Chicago and his college career, and now in Pittsburgh. And for Matt Canada too. I mean, dude has got to figure something out. I mean, I don't know if we've ever fired a coordinator in season, and I doubt it happens. But with seeing a lot of what we're already seeing so far this year, it looks a lot like what we saw last year. It's a little it's actually a lot concerning, and it makes me sad because we have so many good playmakers on this offense that can really stretch the field. You've got so much speed on the outside. You've got Najee in the backfield. You got a tight end that's top 10 in my opinion, and you're really just missing that play calling, like stretch the field, stretch the middle, or work the middle of the field. Like, I don't know, it's disappointing to see, man.
Yeah, I would agree. We have so much talent, and we're just almost wasting it and throwing it away with everything. And I'd agree, Mitch. It's still an early sample size, but he's definitely missed outside the numbers. He just seems wildly uncomfortable with that, which I think is why he's complaining to throw more inside the numbers. Which, fine, if that makes you succeed and that makes you better, great. But you need to make the outside the number throws too, because otherwise teams are going to do the opposite and just start crashing inside the numbers.
Yes.
So you got to do that. I know you talked about Najee and him being a stud, and he is a stud, but he's dealing with that foot injury. And I know, adding complaints to the offense, there was some videos that came out where Najee right now also is not seeing the field very well. Whether that's his foot, and when openings come and they show up late, he just can't push and cut back real hard on it without, a lot of pain or something like that. But I know there was quite a few plays where it was like, oh, okay, like he should have bounced it outside, or he did bounce it outside, but he really should have cut it back and went here. And, instead it was a 2-yard gain when he could have, there were 6 or 7 yards before the next guy was there based on that gap. And so it's one of those where, unfortunately, when it rains, it pours, and it seems to be pouring right now on our offense for, just being super lackadaisical, super inconsistent, and making the defense stay on the field way, 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 way too long, and try to cover for their mistakes.
Right. Yeah, I'm with you. I think even Najee can also see the field a little bit better. Hopefully, I don't know if it's just some of the same stuff he was used to last year, just not trusting the O-line. Obviously, I think this year the O-line's actually looked pretty decent in the first 2 weeks. They definitely taken a step in the right direction. And he just needs to trust that those lanes are going to be there and those holes are going to be there, and work with what he's got, and not be so quick or predetermining bouncing it to the outside immediately. So trust those lanes are going to be there and work with it from there. So now that we've kind of broken it down to what we've seen so far, going into this game off of a short week, there's probably really, as hopeful as we can be, there's probably not a lot that's going to change going into this matchup. I feel like they always say too, going into Thursday night games when you have such a short week, that they usually condense the playbook down to, you got your group of plays, and that's what you're going to run. You don't really expand it, or you don't really, look into trickster options or anything like that. You don't do anything too flashy. You just stick with what you know, and you try to just get out of there with a win. So I as hopeful as I want to be and say, hey, Matt, maybe he's going to see this criticism, and he's going to work the middle of the field, and he's going to dial up some stuff to get our receivers open. Maybe George Pickens gets some more targets, and maybe that still happens, but I doubt middle of the field is going to be anything like more wide open than what we've seen so far. I'm sure it's going to be a lot of the same, unfortunately. I don't know this, but I just think that if it is a lot of the same, we're going to be pretty highly disappointed with our offense, whether it's first quarter, second quarter, whole game. I don't know. They've just been slow to start, man, and I don't know if they I don't know what to think in this game because it is the Browns, and I understand it's a division opponent and short week, but it's tough to go in on a short week and do something different and expect different results. And
yeah, it's tough without changing anything. And you look at the Browns defense. I know they didn't have the best showing last week, but whether we love them or hate them, kind of towards the latter. Myles Garrett is a beast off the edge, and he's going up against second-year left tackle Dan Moore, and that's something that makes me real nervous. That it's kind of like, well, we're going to kind of have to go up against the other side, which no Jadeveon Clowney, and his backup is also injured. I believe went on IR, Chase Winovich.
Yes,
so I mean that helps us, but they still have a lot of studs on that defense to kind of combat us, and especially like you said, it's going to Thursday, so you're just trying to get through. They're going to be stacking the box, telling us, "Hey, throw it deep, throw it deep." You won't, you can't, and it's one of those where it's we need to take some deep shots early to make their defense change in order to have a chance in this game.
Yeah. I think we talked about the Steelers offense on our recap from this past loss against the Patriots, that this Mitch seems to be playing a little bit scared, a little bit hesitant, and like you just said, we really need early and often, and obviously not every drive, but early, and take those chances. Don't be so scared that you're gonna lose your spot to Kenny right away by just throwing a deep shot and getting picked off. I mean, for goodness sakes, you forced a throw last week with a guy right there in front of the route and tipped it, and it got picked anyway. So I don't know. I just feel like you've got Pickens, you've got Claypool, giant dudes, big targets to throw to. Launch it to those guys down the field, stretch the field, make those defense respect the deep ball, and then that'll open it up for the running game as well. So
right.
I would love to see that. I don't know if we will. Maybe Mitch starts to finally kind of get out of his own way and start to open it up a little bit more and start to air it out. But I would hope that'd be the case. I don't know if it's still the case, but Myles Garrett was on the injury report, I think, today.
Yes, he is questionable right now.
So we'll see if he practices. I mean, I kind of hope he plays, to be honest with. I just want the team at full strength, like brawn on brawn. You know what I mean? And obviously we don't have TJ, unfortunately, but
right.
I'd rather have him play in there and we come out with the W rather than him being in there and we come out with the W. If he's not in there and people will be like, oh, well, Myles Garrett would have made a difference. And there's always that. So right. I'd rather just have the guys in there and play the full starters. So
yes.
So looking at our defense, obviously, I know we talked about just real briefly at the beginning of this. They're playing a lot of snaps. Hopefully they aren't really worn down. Hopefully that we are able to generate some more pressure. That I know that was the problem in this past Patriots game. This past game was the first game without TJ Watt in there. Mm-hmm. And you saw it was pretty evident. The pass rush was basically non-existent. Only got there a couple times for pressure-wise, but no sacks. And it was definitely lacking. You could see it, and it really affected how our defenders were playing. You could really see that start to really influence how our defenders were playing zone and man. I don't know if we see maybe more blitzes, maybe more pressure. Maybe we're able to dial up some different stuff, different looks this game to get to Brissett. I'm sure hoping so, because I feel like that just helps everything on our back end. And I know we talked about that before. Our corners aren't completely locked down, and we kind of build off of that pressure and those sacks. So I'm hoping we can kind of maybe get more to Brissett and get in his head this game.
Yeah, it would definitely be nice. I think our defense is averaging like 85 snaps a game, which is just absurd. That's something that you don't want to sustain or have sustained, because it'll just kill them. And we definitely need to pressure Brissett. To me, though, and I mean just as a comparison standpoint, we should be all in on stopping the run. Like 100% in on stopping the run. just in comparison, I don't even know what Kareem Hunt has. Chubb has ran the ball 14 times more than Najee has this year, and he has 156 more yards and 3 touchdowns compared to Najee's 0 rushing the ball. I mean, they have went all in, and I know Kareem Hunt week 1 probably got darn close to 100 yards. So, I mean, you're looking at 300 to 400 yards worth of rushing over 2 weeks minimum. That, I mean, it's just they're going to try to run you down, drain you out, and kind of take advantage of it late in the game. And it's something where our defense needs to be stop the run, make Brissett pass, and make him prove that he's a quarterback that can win the game for the Browns. And hopefully at that point we get some pressure or our corners step up and, instead of letting a Moss catch happen, we make the Moss pick.
Right. Yep. I'm 100% with you. I think obviously our defense needs to focus on stopping Chubb, stopping Hunt, stopping their rushing attack. I also think too, and I don't mean to go back into the offense, but this is where the offense needs to step up in behalf or in favor of our defense, is because if the offense can get up early and we can hold a lead and defense is stopping the run and make them pass, then you've got, I don't know, then you've kind of got the Browns' backs up against the wall, and they're like, okay, well, we can't rush it and wear down this defense, sort of like the Patriots did this last game. We saw it in the fourth quarter where they just started to run the ball and the defense was just getting gassed, and you could just see that they were getting worn down, and the Patriots were just converting these first downs with just running the ball right down our throat, and you could see it happening. So I just think that in this game where we've got to be focused on stopping the run first and foremost, but if the offense can do their thing, get on the board early and often, that's also going to help the defense basically close it out at the end of the game too.
Right. Yep. I definitely agree with that, and it's going to be interesting. I don't know how our defense is going to be. We got Mink, and he's going to be stout in all that we do. And like you said, not to keep going back to the offense, but just killing that clock, keeping them off the field, keeping them slightly rested. Hopefully it gets a little bit more fire under that pressure to the quarterback or to stopping the run. But it's going to be a gritty game where, unfortunately, we're probably not going to score a lot, so our trenches need to win on both sides. And that's going to be the standpoint. I know it seems that anytime we play the Browns, we seem to do well and seem to always push out miracles, but sometimes your luck just kind of ends and you got to have your skill take over. And it's kind of really down to that, to where our stars outside of TJ need to definitely show and prove themselves that they are, the other stars of the defense and stuff, and our offense needs to kind of become something more than below average.
Yeah,
below average.
Yeah, exactly. Having Highsmith or Cam step up and make some plays. And I know those guys are you can see that they both have high motors and they're always at every play. But I'm just saying, getting to the quarterback or making a play that you'd see a splash play out of, TJ. Someone's got to make a play while he's not there. And I know Minka got the pick last week, but someone else has got to step up and do something here. So, and I know I texted you earlier, speaking of the offense, getting up early and often, I texted you earlier today about that, the stat or the video that came up that the Steelers' last first quarter touchdown was scored, that was scored by the Steelers offense, was in week 8 or something of last year against the Lions, by Mason Rudolph. It's sad. Like that is so pitiful. When you actually just sit down and think about that, they haven't scored a offensive touchdown in the first quarter since week 8 of last year. That's pretty bad. That's actually worse than bad, but we'll leave it at that, I guess. I would love to say they need to get up early and often in the game. I just don't know how realistic it is. They just don't. They don't show that consistency. They don't get it rolling. They don't. I don't know. They just don't show that rhythm on offense yet. And it's weird because like in the preseason, they sort of did, but when it comes to regular season, they're just like, nah. We don't do that anymore.
Yeah, it seemed like the play calls in the preseason were more of what we need to run in the regular season because they seem to work better, offensively and defensively. I mean, they seem to work pretty well, and it's just I don't know. We kind of have a frustrating team because we have the talent on both sides. It's just putting it all together and having that complete game. Because it always seems like if for some reason our offense actually does show up, our defense doesn't. Or if our defense does, which more often than not it does, our offense fails it over and over and over again, and then we lose a real close, tight game. Comes down to the final seconds, takes about 40 years off my life. You know, all the fun stuff that I just love to do every Sunday, or in this case, Thursday.
Right. Yeah. I'm sure they'll make it interesting. I'm sure they'll make it close, as per usual. So offense, defense, they've got some work to do. They've got a big task, short week.
Yep. No injuries on the injury report today.
I know. I think Devin Bush might have been the only one, but he was limited or something in practice with his foot.
Yes. Yeah, and he didn't even show up on ESPN's app today, so he must be good.
So what do you have? What are you thinking for this game? What's your bold prediction? What's your score prediction? Let's hear both.
Bold prediction. I've went defense twice. I've been wrong twice. I'm going to say our offense scores some points. Still not what we want to see, but I'm going to say that we see some growth in the fact that Mitch actually targets George because he seems to be the open receiver more often than not. So I'm going to say that George Pickens has 6 catches, over 100 yards, and 2 touchdowns.
Wow, nice. He needs it, man. He needs a game to break out. We need to be given a chance first off, but
correct.
he needs that breakout game. I feel like I think I've gone offense the past 2 weeks, so I think it's only fair that I finally switch over to the defensive side of the ball here. I'm gonna say this unit is going to hold Chubb under 100 yards rushing, and I'm going to say they're going to force 2 turnovers in this matchup.
I like it.
I don't know how bold it is, but I feel like being able to stop the run and force turnovers is probably a pretty good key to success in this one.
That Chubb one's going to be tough. The Browns are at
it's going to be real tough.
200.5 yards per game rushing.
However, I think, was it Conklin that's on the injury report as well?
Yes, Jack Conklin.
I mean, that would be a huge hit to their O-line.
Chris Hubbard.
I think Batonio was on the report too. So that's 2 of their front dudes on that stout O-line.
Yeah, they're definitely injured. It seems like they always have linemen that can come up and play pretty well, though. So I just kind of take that one with a grain of salt. But
yeah, and it's only Tuesday. I think it could change tomorrow to the practice or the injury report. So
yeah, could be vet days off kind of thing, and just labeling them with an injury status.
Yeah.
So what's your prediction for the game?
My score prediction for the game. I'm gonna go with the Steelers. I think I have to. I don't have to, but I want to in this matchup. I just can't pick the Browns in this matchup. I think offense has been struggling. The defense has been really stout, to be honest. For the most part, they've been really good for everything what they've gone up against. And I think they continued the defensive trend of being a stout defense against the run, continue to be pretty dominant in the passing game as well. And I'm just going to say, I'm not going to say the offense does great in this matchup, but I'm going to say they do enough to get it done. So I'm going to go Steelers in this matchup, 24, Browns 20.
Okay. I don't believe in our offense. And unfortunately, I think our defense has not enough turnaround. Over 100 snaps week 1, 66 snaps last week. In the right direction. However, it's a lot of snaps, short week. Unfortunately, I think they're going to get gassed a little easily. I'm going to go Browns in this one, and I'm going to say that they beat us fairly handily, 31-17.
Wow. You're anticipating a beatdown, huh?
I'm anticipating something that makes us have to make a change.
Right.
Losing or winning close games doesn't put a fire in us to change anything. If we get blown out, it might spark a fire to change something.
Yeah, that's what I was going to bring that up to you. Do you think I highly, highly, highly doubt that anything happens with Canada this season? I could be wrong. Ownership has changed. A lot of new stuff is going on, so you never know. But I doubt that that's the case in the middle of the season or start of the season. Do you think that this is the straw that breaks the camel's back? Do you think that if Mitch has a showing just like he has the past 2 games, inconsistent, because obviously, I mean, you go back and look at some of the highlights from the game or the tape from the game, the play calling is pretty horrendous for the majority of it. But for the plays that were there and the guys that were open on plays and he just threw checkdowns or had the wrong reads, the plays were there to be made. And I just wonder if you see that in this week 3 matchup against the Browns and it leads to a loss or even leads to a victory, I don't know, but especially if it leads to a loss, does it kick the tires on Kenny? Do you think it prompts them to make a change there in any sort of way?
Gut reaction, just knowing the Steelers, no. I feel like, because Tomlin's already came out and said that he thinks Trubisky's doing a fine job, so he's already backing him up from the Kenny chance. I think if we see Kenny, we will not see him until week 10, which is after our bye. Unless, of course, an injury occurs.
Sure, right.
I think we're too stuck in our ways, wanting to let him develop a little bit more.
I know I said I'd mentioned this on our recap of the Patriots game. Is the NFL season is 17 games, but it just seems you've got to make everyone count. So I just feel like if you're going with this expectation of we're going to ride and die with Mitch and whatever happens, we're gonna trust him and hope he leads us to some victories. I just don't know. I don't know what the course of action, the best course of action is, but I just don't know if that's the best way to approach it. I just don't think, like, when you've got a guy that's just producing mediocre results, couldn't you just have Pickett in there learning and producing mediocre results? I don't know. It's just something needs to give, and I don't know exactly what it is. I think honestly there's blame to point at the play calling and the quarterback play, but I don't know, man. I think you're right. I think it is probably one of those things that Tom's like, no, I'm stopping.